need to switch guards, all right? So if I switch from my 1.5, I can go back to a 1.5 simply by placing my 1 guard on there and opening it all the way up. There is a small problem with that though, is that you're relying on the math and the theoretically this should work rather than practically applying it to see if that's true. Always, like, never take for granted that this will be exactly the same, because on every set of clippers I've ever seen, it's just a little different, and it also depends on how you set your blades. So don't go and just assume that that's fine. Go back and check it again. Listen. Whoa, a little bit of hair getting cut there, isn't there? That should technically be 1.5, but it's a tiny bit shorter than 1.5, right? So don't take that for granted. Go back through and make sure you're getting your section nice and thorough. The thing is, what we're talking about as we get shorter and shorter here, guys, is the fraction of a millimeter difference. And that is a really noticeable visual difference to a haircut, okay? When we're talking a fraction of a millimeter, because it's like fades is about relativity. I told you, it's gonna be math in this. Fades is a relativity kind of thing, like how to blend a fade. It's about relativity in the sense that, like, something that is 6 inches long is not noticeably longer than something that is 6 inches and 1 millimeter long. But something that is 1 millimeter long is very obviously different from something that is 2 millimeters long. So as it gets shorter, the variation becomes more like specific. You can see it. It's more dependent on like just fractions of a millimeter sometimes. And so no scissors are capable of doing that. That's all human error, because you still have to maneuver. This thing is just infallible, you know what I mean, once you get to that point. And so that's good. Then it really just comes down to, do you have the technique mastered, you know what I mean? And that takes a long time. And I mean, shit, I'll let you know when I've got it, but still, it's one of those things that you can spend literally all day working through a fade if you really, really wanted to. But it comes down to just understanding a couple of things that will really help you out. Sometimes when I get those little divots, like those little areas that like feels like a pocket, instead of taking a big, strong line across it like that, I'll tilt my clipper a little bit and I'll start using it just on that corner. So I'm really just using a couple of teeth in that area, because that's where that shadow is. And at some point during this point, you stop following along to the math of it, and you start interpreting a little bit visually, right? Blending out shadows, rather than just being like, well, the length is right. You know, you start, well, you know, theoretically, this haircut should be amazing. So there we go. So I'm working that through. And then again, I'm getting a little lower. It's like a layer cake. Work my way down, and you can start to see now, we're starting to see a real lightness through there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that halfway. By the time I'm at my 1, I work in like halves. I don't work in like full jumps, because again, that's going to change by almost 2 millimeters, and at this point, you're going to start to notice that. So when I'm up in like 1.5, 2, and stuff like that, I'll do a full open, full close. But then by the time I start getting in here, I start going down by halves. And then by the time I get down to like my next guard, I'll go in thirds. So the jumps are smaller. That just really, really helps you blend things and really helps things come together a little better. I hope this is helpful for you guys. Can't wait till we get into the top area.
How long, if you're not teaching, how long would this haircut take you?
Yeah.
I do this in my shop, maybe about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. Really depends. I mean, when you're teaching, it takes a lot longer because I stop and I talk way too much, I'm sure you've noticed. But it's a thing where it's like, in my shop, it doesn't take that long. All right, so I'm gonna go all the way closed now. I did my 1/2, all the way closed, and now I'm at a 1, and I'm going down these like really small jumps now, making sure that I blend this as I work. This is the part where you're gonna start seeing more of the stubble from below and start realizing you're like, you know, it wasn't really that short. I mean, it looks like skin still, but there's some stubble there you'll start to see. Here's another thing I wanted to show you guys too. Lighting. Lighting matters to fades so much. Okay, what you have over here is directional, like orange, yellow light that creates really hard shadows. And over here you have natural diffused light that is blowing right at his side of his head and blowing everything out. I could look at this side and be like, that looks pretty good. And then I can turn around on this side and be like, the fuck just happened? So you gotta make sure that when you're doing these haircuts, when you're doing this sort of thing, you gotta make sure that you really do turn them around a little bit. Like that's the first thing, turn them around in the light and try and get that stuff to like make sense to you in different lighting so you can really see that happen. Because I have lots of clients that I've seen where I'm like, oh, that looks really, really good. And then I'm following them out the door being like, what the fuck? Like, That looks so good in here. Just hang out in here all the time. You gotta go and live with this in the real world, so make sure it looks okay. The other thing I like to use too is my mirror, because a lot of the time, even if the lighting conditions are right, you don't see a lot of imperfections and a lot of flaws until they're like 6-7 meters away from you sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those people that are walking away to pay for that haircut and you're just like, oh shit. And you're starting to try and figure out like, am I gonna fix that or it's lunchtime? Right, like,
So, but I
They're chasing him out the door, stuck up for him.
here's aha moment number 3 for you today. In a shop like this, there's not a lot of space to do that. You can like kind of storm back and forth all you want, but when you're really doing, like, let's say I can see a problem there, and I'm like, shit, okay, I gotta fix that. That means I gotta come over here, pick my tools back up, come back here to the place where I was standing before and couldn't see it, and then try and figure out, like, fuck, okay, back here again. Now I'm gonna like, okay, from the ear, about an inch out there, you know what I mean? And that's not so easy. Instead, what I can simply do is stand right beside him, don't move, and just look in the mirror. And he's 6 feet away from me here, but I'm standing right next to him. And I can go through, I can do my thing.
Okay, so even
I can
like
see
you
it.
said, the lighting can have, because lighting makes a huge difference.
Lighting does.
Yeah,
Lighting makes a huge difference.
that's why, you know, you do a haircut, like with all our windows and everything, it's awesome. During the day,
Mhm.
natural light, it's like incredible, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's nighttime.
Oh yeah, and that's just all directional,
Shadows,
orange and shadowy, yeah.
lights, you see all of that, so.
Be done by 4 every day.
Looks like a 90s rock video in here when it's like, yeah, at nighttime I got you. It's all the orange lights and stuff and everything. Yeah, I got you.
Just don't do them.
I've never been in a shop that has perfect lighting.
Yeah.
I've never found one, ever. And I've never been to a shop that doesn't have staff complaining about the lighting. So that's the funny thing. It's like, it doesn't matter how good it is. They're always like, oh, the lighting in here. I'm like, it might not be the lighting. Yeah, it's the first thing we blame though. It's always the first thing we blame. We're like, whatever, fucking lighting.
Looks better outside.
All right, so guys, how many of you ever get this like little gray one that comes with your clippers? And for real, how many of you just thrown it in the garbage with the rest of the junk that comes with clippers? Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
That is not what it's for. Here's the thing. This, you guys, this is a half guard, okay? The half guard's really important because if I have my next guard, which comes with all the sets, is a 1. All
Yeah, you
right?
don't
This
have that.
is a 0 closed and a half open. So there is a pretty substantial space between 1/2 and a 1 that you can't get without this, right? So you put this on all the way open and it's a 1, but it's probably a little shorter than 1, like we talked about. But now I can just go down anywhere between 1/2 and a 1, and I can blend that out. And you can see the difference is pretty substantial.
Do your clippers lock at a quarter, a half, and a 3/4? They have like noticeable.
Yeah,
Little clicks.
yeah.
This particular one does, but they go in fifths, which is weird when you want to get a quarter. You can get 2/5. It's not quite what I'm looking for. And if you want to be that like anal about it, yeah, that shit would piss me off. But I find that as long as it has a lever, you're good. The real problem that you run into when you're trying to blend is the battery ones that have like those 3 clicks on the back. No good. Too big a jump. So here we go, all the way open. Work my way down. And if you notice, like as we work our way down here, you can see this get lighter and lighter and blending in, and watch the clipper. I'm still working along that line. I'm still working along that shape, parallel to my weight line. Now,
Notice the consistency of that, how he works. He's not jumping around. He's rubbing from left to right consistently through the whole thing. Because sometimes when you guys move around dramatically from one side to the other side, it creates an inconsistency in the blend. You just notice that he just kind of progressively works over from one side to the other side.
and one of the things, see, street cred. Now here's the thing. Here's the other thing that you might not notice too, is that you might not realize that fade is really just a bunch of lines. It's a bunch of lines. We're putting in soft lines all the way down. They're horseshoe-shaped lines. They just go down, 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 down. They dip slightly so you can't see them. They blend because they're real close together, but they're the same as doing sectioning with lines. Okay, so I'm following my lines. I'm keeping my line, my original guideline here, and I'm blending it all the way down. It's just a bunch of lines. And so basically, I'm trying to blend that out, elbow low. Listen for the sound. Is it doing any more? Nope. When we're trying to keep those lines straight, a lot of people have a bad habit that I see happen where they put a lot of tension right here. They put tension to try to get the hair to stand up. And that's okay, hair standing up is important because it feeds into the clipper. But the problem with it is when you put tension above the head shape, just watch the weight line. Okay, watch the guideline, right? Do you see how much it moves? So how are you gonna put a line in there, let it go, changes shape? That doesn't help you blend. When I put tension on, I put tension below. See how the line doesn't move? So I'm tensioning below what I'm cutting into, and allows me to put tension here and then cut away from where I'm putting the tension. Right? That's a much better way to put tension on the hair, is just below it, if you need to. Because it's that way your lines, they kind of stay the way you want them to. All right, so now I'm gonna close this down by 1/3. I still have like about maybe a 1/2 inch to go before I'm blended, because this is down to a 0. I still have to blend through my bare blade too. Bare blade just sounds like a sexual thing. So I always give it, like, I don't know why, but like the first time I ever got up and had a haircut, I referred to it as going bareback now. And like, it's always kind of stuck with me because I don't know where the fuck that came from. It just kind of came out of my mouth. But now every time I say it, I'm like, I still can't believe I fucking said that. And on a Sunday in Utah, no less. At some barber church. I did this thing when we were in Birmingham this year, which is really funny. Me and Pope and Mark. You guys and I Pope down here.